If you're Elon Musk, this is probably the last thing that you want to see. According to a Morning Consult poll that was just released, Elon's approval rating is already underwater among Americans. 49% disapprove to just 39% approve. That's a net negative 10-point approval rating, which is especially bad considering this is the honeymoon period. This is when Elon should be the most popular, as Trump's little shadow president operating under whatever mandate they think that they have. And yet the fact that he's starting off with a net negative approval rating goes to show that even his high water mark is dangerously low and will only get worse. And of course, it's not difficult to see why. While Elon has promised that the Department of Government Efficiency would root out waste, corruption, and abuse, in fact, it's done the opposite. It has shut down vital programs that keep the United States safe. It's put our healthcare and essential services at risk, including Medicaid. It's put our sensitive information in the hands of, in some instances, random teenagers, including one who just today resigned because his social media accounts show him advocating for eugenics. According to the Wall Street Journal, Marco Alez, a 25-year-old who is part of a cadre of Elon Musk lieutenants deployed by the Department of Government Efficiency to scrutinize federal spending, resigned after the Wall Street Journal asked the White House about his connection to the account. Quote, "Just for the record, I was racist before it was cool," the account posted in July. Quote, "You could not pay me to marry outside of my ethnicity," the account wrote on X in September. Quote, "Normalize Indian hate." After the Wall Street Journal asked about the account, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said that Alez had resigned from his role. Trump framed DOGE as some high-level effort to root out corruption. It's a bunch of teenagers and 20-somethings who want a white ethno-state and access to your social security number. Can you imagine what Republicans would be saying if some 25-year-old anti-Republican liberal had access to your social security number and other private data, especially found in the Treasury? Lou Dobbs would resurrect himself from the dead. But when Republicans do it, it's apparently no big deal. That is the asymmetry at play in our politics. Worse, imagine if Democrats had put George Soros in charge of unilaterally deciding what programs stay and which ones go, despite the fact that they had already been funded by Congress. The outcry would be constant and deafening. And yet, that's what's happening on the right, all at the hands of someone who himself gets billions, with a B, of subsidies from our federal government. And that conflict of interest was posed to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
You talked a bit about DOGE. Elon Musk is currently a, quote, special government employee who also owns companies that have billions of dollars in federal contracts. You said earlier this week that he has abided by all applicable federal laws, but what steps is the Trump administration taking to address that conflict of interest?
The president was already asked and answered this question this week, and he said if Elon Musk comes across a conflict of interest with the contracts and the funding that DOGE is overseeing, then Elon will excuse himself from those contracts. And he has, again, abided by all applicable laws.
Well, phew. If there's any conflict of interest, Elon will just self-regulate. And here I was thinking that there was no oversight. But I'm much more relieved knowing that the person in charge of moderating Elon's overreach is Elon. And look, I want to be clear. If there's waste, I'm all for cutting it. But take a listen to what Caroline Leavitt is saying about the waste to justify the U.S. depriving funding to USAID, which was the latest victim of DOGE Commission.
And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Only small problem? Quite literally none of those examples are what USAID is doing. In reality, what USAID does for a fraction of federal spending, less than 1%, is offer invaluable help to the world, like clean water projects, HIV prevention, and more. And in exchange for that, we have alliances all over the planet, which in global conflicts is a good thing, a necessary thing. It means when we need help or strategic bases around the world, we have that goodwill. When USAID goes away, guess what country is taking the place of us? You guessed it, China. Now, normally, Americans wouldn't want to allow China to become more powerful, but guess who does business in China? Guess who spent years growing his companies in China? Guess who relies on China for his portfolio? Elon Musk. So by undermining our global alliances in deference to China, it'll hurt our national security, but help Elon's bottom line. But hey, something, waste, fraud, and abuse. Am I right? And that's a point I discussed with Senator Chris Murphy.
Yeah, there's a race that's underway right now. Who is going to control, the piping of the international economy, the highways, the information highways, the port infrastructure, the supply of critical minerals that are necessary for chips and batteries. In order to control that infrastructure, you've got to have governments all over the world that are willing to sell it to you. And USAID helps us create relationships with countries so that when they're selling a port, they don't automatically just go to China, that they at least let the United States make a bid. Now that USAID is gone off the playing field, the only place that those countries have to go for help confronting viruses or addressing a famine or economic development is China. And so China will be able to build all of these relationships around the world. And then all of a sudden we'll wake up one day and the United States economy doesn't have access to the global economy because China owns it all. So when USAID steps off the playing field, China benefits. And I do not believe that that is coincidental to Elon Musk having a number of very open issues through his businesses with the Chinese government. They may be willing to do him some nice favors, given that Elon Musk has taken USAID off the playing field.
So again, who does all of this help? Because as far as I can tell, Elon's the winner and the rest of us in America are losers. And look, I think it's already beginning to break through. And Democrats, to their credit, are seeing the writing on the wall as far as Elon is concerned. Americans wanted cheaper groceries, not some billionaire who's the government's biggest welfare recipient deciding who gets congressionally allocated funding based on his own partisan political allegiances and his own portfolio, all the while affording himself the ability to enrich himself and hurt his competitors. That's not rooting out corruption and abuse, it is the definition of creating it, which is why the left is correct to fight back.
What Donald Trump has done is that he has completely given up his power and handed a lot of it over to Elon Musk. Elon Musk has appointed some teenagers and some people in their early 20s into essentially trying to raid federal government systems, including sensitive and classified information at the U.S. Department of Treasury. I mean, Elon Musk is one of the thinnest skinned MFers I have ever encountered in my life. That dude, you can get him twisted by looking at him. Like, he is so insecure, which is why he's a white supremacist. Like, these people rely on this ideology because they need something to hang their hat of superiority on. Clearly, money isn't enough for this dude. He needs he needs to cling on to this to feel better than, because he has a complex, all right? Like, this is deeply psychological. This is what happens when, you don't go to therapy, dude.
I don't know what Elon Musk's intentions are. I don't know what Elon Musk's motivations are. I don't know what his purposes are, but they've got nothing to do with what has been lawfully adopted by the people of the United States of America through the Congress of the United States. We're going to defend USAID all the way.
So Elon might have viewed bankrolling Trump's campaign as his vehicle to remake the entire U.S. government in his mold to help himself, but he's about to learn a hard lesson in political gravity. The Democrats have homed in on his unpopularity, and the American people are listening. And his meal ticket to enrich himself at the expense of everybody else is about to hit a brick wall. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.